During quarter 4 of last year, we were able to generate roughly $19 million at a 5.82x ROAS, and this year we are planning to do a lot more. And about 7 different Q4s in my e-commerce journey so far, I have figured out the perfect Q4 strategy which your brand needs right at this point of time to actually have a successful quarter 4. But before we actually dive into the actual strategy, let's first take a step back to understand what Q4 is all about, because I can't tell you how many brand owners I speak with regularly who have the wrong idea and wrong approach of quarter 4, and as a result they go after the completely wrong things which end up making their Q4 just another average quarter. And what you want to understand, the fundamentals of quarter 4 is Q4 is all about scaling what's already working. It's about higher revenue and higher profits, going after things which Q1 through Q3 you should have already hopefully tested. Q4 is also all about first purchase profits. What this means is quarter 4 is about becoming profitable on that very first order, that very first interaction you have with your ideal customer. It's not about ramping up ad spend to focus more on revenue, because I can't tell you how many Q4s I personally wasted with my own e-commerce brands trying to ramp up revenue, trying to just make it seem like I did $1 million, $2 million during quarter 4, only at the end of quarter 4 and during December to come out barely breaking even. It's also not about testing a variety of different strategies and products. As I said earlier, Q4 should be the time you're focusing on what's already working. Leave all of the testing, whether it's for products, whether it's for strategies, landing pages, whatever it may be, for quarter 1 to quarter 3. And this is simply because, historically speaking, and this is backed by data, quarter 4 is one of the easiest times to convince your ideal customer to purchase. It doesn't matter if your brand is very steady throughout the year or if it has ups and downs. Usually quarter 4 is the time period 95% of the e-commerce brands and audiences associated with them want to purchase more products. It's just because there's a buying intent kind of atmosphere, there's a buying intent mood, there's a lot of promos going on, coupons, and there's occasions which call for gifting, which means people are looking to spend their money. But quarter 4, and this might be something that you might not agree with me with, but quarter 4 is also, I personally believe, not about focusing on LTV. Lifetime value of a customer is all great for quarter 1 to quarter 3, but again, quarter 4 is all about getting that first purchase profitably and getting as many of those as possible. Now, the thing I've noticed going through so many quick Q4s over the years is, even if you are to focus on LTV or things like improving the average retention rate of your customer, having some sorts of monthly recurring revenue coming in from these users, usually the audience shopping during Q4 is the window shoppers type of audience, meaning they were not really meant to last around anyway. So instead of trying to waste time going after the wrong audience with the wrong approaches and strategies, it's best to stick to what is already working, and it's best to focus on first order profitability. But this is exactly the approach which we are now going to be taking for a lot of the brands we work with under my agency, Euro Marketing, which, by the way, if you run a brand doing $50,000 or more per month in revenue, you need some extra help scaling to the next level with Google Ads, go on to my website, euromarketing.com, schedule a completely free call with me, and let's see how we can potentially work together and make that happen. But how does all of this now translate to the actual Google ad strategy? Well, when it comes to Google Ads, as an e-commerce founder or brand owner, you want to be looking at things from a top-down approach, from a top-level approach, because that is the most strategic approach you can be taking with Google Ads. And ideally, during this time, the most strategic approach you can take is converting that 80-20 rule, which I often talk about in my videos, into the 90-10 rule. Now, what is exactly this 80-20 rule? This 80-20 rule states 80% of your budget during a normal average day, a normal average month, should be going towards product testing campaigns and just scaling campaigns in general, whereas 20% of your budget should be going towards placement testing campaigns such as demand gen, discovery, YouTube, search. These are all campaign types which are not fully proven for your brand, and you want to expand horizontally onto these brands, test different things, A/B test, so on and so forth. That's what 20% of your budget is for. Now, this is during Q4 translated into the 90-10 approach. 90% of your budget now should be going towards what's already working pmax campaigns, working standard shopping campaigns, search, YouTube, whatever approaches are currently working. your team or yourself should be allocating 90% of your entire budget towards these things and focusing on scaling those things. And only 10% should be going towards things which have not fully been proven yet. Maybe different campaign tabs, maybe trying to expand to more campaign tabs, so on and so forth. But during this time, 90% of that budget that you are spending should be allocated towards high buying intent campaigns. Ideally, and this is a personal preference, we like to now sort of during Q4 go towards performance max campaigns and smart bidding based strategies more in general, simply because you want to let the campaigns and the algorithm go after automated bidding during this time. This is not the time to be figuring out what the lowest bid should be, nor is it the time to be A/B testing different things in terms of manual bidding versus smart bidding, so on and so forth. It's the time to let the algorithm get all of that data that you hopefully got during Q1 and Q3, use it to your advantage to go into the auction and rank for the right bids without overbidding, but at the same time do it profitably. Because one thing I will tell you from my experience is during Q4, majority of your competitors will do the same exact approach as each other, where they're gonna now try to ramp up budgets. They're gonna try to bid higher to hopefully win more auctions. And if you just follow the same exact approach that they do, well, obviously it's gonna become a bidding war, a pricing war, which at the end of the day, you never want to participate in. But along with a smart bidding based, maybe performance max or standard shopping approach, you do want a general bestseller standard shopping campaign running alongside your major PMax campaign as well. And the reason why I recommend PMax and standard shopping to run side by side with the same product, ideally for the bestsellers, is because now with the recent Google Ads update, both of these campaigns will actually run side by side, and the campaign with the higher quality score will win more auctions. So the other campaign that's not winning as many auctions or has a lower quality score for whatever reason is normally not going to spend as much money. So this is beneficial for your brand because number one, it will generally spend more of your budget towards what's already working, and number two, it will allow your campaigns and your products to enter more auctions and hopefully win more auctions, because now you're entering the auction via two entry points, the PMax and standard shopping, versus just individually. But that 10% of the budget, that should be focused on things like search campaigns, YouTube campaigns, and very small amounts of demand gen. Again, ideally, it's all about buying intent during Q4, so you want to be spending this 10% of the budget towards buying intent campaigns as well. But the main thing you can do in terms of the approach, the main strategic approach you want to be taking is an approach which is based around product segregation of best sellers, best performers versus underperformers. This is ideally the best product segregation strategy we have seen work during Q4 across a variety of different brands. Forget the splitting the products based on collections, forget it based on profit margins. This right now during Q4 should be based around the actual data. But if you already have something that's working, by the way, don't just listen to me go in and shut that off, because that's the worst thing you can do. And I don't want you coming back in my comment section crying how you listened to me that you segregated out bestsellers versus underperformers and you shut off what was working, because ideally you never want to touch what's already working and instead try to scale it up. But if something's not really working as well for your brand, then you want to go after bestsellers versus underperformers, and you want to have separate PMax or standard shopping campaigns going after different countries. Ideally, if you can ship to these multiple countries, because again, Q4 is about expansion. It's about scaling that revenue profitably and expanding to different countries. Well, during Q4, people in these other countries, they're gonna be more in the buying intent just as much as the United States or whatever main country you target. So for that alone, you want to be expanding onto different campaign tabs. But no matter what you do, no matter what the approach is, 90, 10, 80, 20, whatever it may be, the number one thing you want to keep in mind during Q4 is the goal during this time. It's not to rank number 1 and number 2 and number 3 with your product, because again, that would probably entail you bidding way too high, you spending way too much money, and that too unprofitably. Instead, the goal is to rank your products multiple times in the top 6 placements, ideally number 4, number 5, number 6, and with a better approach. I always talk about this, but what we're doing right now for a majority of the brands we handle is product feed improvements, product images, A/B testing them right now prior to Q4 when I'm recording this video, at least. But doing whatever we can to make our product feed stand out. So even though we are ranking number 4, number 5, number 6, our product images, titles, Google Merchant Center reviews program should be so good that the customer should be forced to avoid looking at number 1, 2, 3 and actually shop with us, look at number 4 through 6. And this will will save us, number one, a lot of bids because we don't have to bid as high to get number 4 to number 6. And number 2, we will have much more profitability while scaling. This is the most ideal approach you're going to be taking during Q4. And this is ideally going to lead you into the scaling phases, which during Q4, again, what we are doing is we're not doing crazy things. We're not doing a lot of horizontal scaling. We're sticking to what's working, and we're doing vertical scaling, meaning increasing the budget and slowly decreasing restrictions as needed. Usually during Q4, we like to decrease restrictions very, very scarcely, maybe by 5% to 10%. Bid restrictions decrease or ROAS restrictions decrease, and then budget increases we do more aggressively, maybe 10 to 30%, sometimes even 40% if things are doing really well. But this is the general approach we take for majority of the brands we work with. Again, if you run a brand doing $50,000 or more per month in revenue, you want to scale to the next level, not only during Q4, but for the upcoming months and years. Go on to my website at yourmarketing.com, schedule a completely free call with me, and let's see how we can potentially work together and make that happen.